Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Rundown. I'm Chris Dixon, InfoWeather Catholic Media. Today is Saturday, March 27th, 2021. This is episode 13, and it is Holy Week. We have Palm Sunday this Sunday, Holy Week all week this week, April 1st, April Fool's Day, Mass of the Lord's Supper, followed by Good Friday, a day of fasting as well as abstinence, and then we have Holy Saturday, and as well, of course, Easter Sunday on April 4th. So busy liturgical week. Speaking of that, we're going to go into more detail about two of the locations we cover. First off, St. Thomas More University Parish. You can see a very jam-packed schedule here. Some highlights real quick. The usual daily Mass on Monday. We're going to have the Chrism Mass. There no in-person Mass, just online at the Cathedral, 3 o'clock on Tuesday. And we're going to be watching Passion of the Christ at 7 on Tuesday night in the Parish Hall. Same regular thing on Wednesday, 40 Days for Life Rosary. That's going to be the last one, of course, 40 Days for Life. Wrapping up as Lent itself wraps up. There's going to be tabling as well in the morning. Confession's going to start 30 minutes early. They have been going long. Father went 30 minutes into Mass on Wednesday, hearing additional confessions because we had another priest. And then, of course, on Thursday, the confession lines were very long as well. Holy Grounds this week is Alex Sanchez himself. And then by the time we get to Thursday, of course, regular schedule, push Mass back into late at night to begin the Triduum. And then heading into Friday, we'll have the Stations of the Cross on campus beginning at 3 o'clock. I'm going to try to get the drone up and get a shot of everybody. Expected to be a decent amount of people. Be sure to wear your mask. That's a big concern we're going to have. We don't want to get in trouble with the university. I'm more concerned about non-students than students. So, but alas, and then by 7 o'clock, we'll have the commemoration of the Passion. Easter Vigil is going to be at 8:30, and then regular Sunday Masses for the rest of the weekend next weekend. For Church of the Resurrection, one might call it, nothing too wild here. Confession will be on Monday from 4 to 7. There's going to be a large confession time there. The Chrism Mass is at 6 p.m., I believe, live streamed from the Cathedral. The Holy Thursday Mass at 7. Commemoration of the Passion at 7. Living Stations will be at noon on Friday. And then of course, that's in the church. That'll also be live streamed. There's going to be some Easter activities on Holy Saturday morning. Easter Vigil will be at 8:30, just like it is here in Oklahoma, except for that's really an hour earlier. And then there's going to be 4 Mass times on Sunday. The Ministry Center at 8:30 and 10:30, and the regular church at 9 and 11. Reservations were, I guess, required. Let's get into the weather. No winter weather this week, but we do have a lot of severe weather to talk about. Here was last week, Mississippi, Alabama tornado outbreak, first high risk since May 20th, 2019, 4 EF2 tornadoes. This week, almost the same area, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, all getting tornadoes. First time with a high risk, 2 separate weeks apart rather than back-to-back high risk days happen sometimes. But 2 weeks apart, first time since 1990. There have been 6 tornado deaths as well as 1 non-tornado thunderstorm death. As of Friday night, there were 2 confirmed EF2 tornadoes. One of those killed 5 people, which is the deadliest tornado in the United States since Easter Monday in 2020. There was also an EF3 tornado. That was the first tornado of the day in Alabama. That's at least 35 miles long. And then there was an EF4 that went from Alabama to Georgia. That's that more southern track one. You see there's 2 general paths of red there. That northern track one was the first tornado of the day that, went up and down and made its path. That second one was an EF4 making its way into Peachtree City, Georgia, the Atlanta general area. 1 death with that storm, over 65 miles long. We're still waiting on more information. It's still relatively recent since this occurred on Thursday. Moving on to tropical weather, we have 2 invests that we're watching in the southern Indian Ocean, one with a medium, one with a low chance We are also looking at general areas of development. That high risk area is due to those invests, and then we do have a moderate chance of formation heading into midweek next week into the week after as well. For Columbus, we're looking at 70 degrees today as well as Tuesday, but we're going to have some rain on Sunday morning, so it's going to be a bit cooler Sunday and Monday before it can warm up on Tuesday. By the time we get to Wednesday, it's going to be cool. It's going to be 50 degrees and rainy, kind of crappy out. Could see some wintry mix heading into Wednesday night into Thursday. A high of 40 on Thursday, so that's going to be brutal. We're going to go up 10 degrees per day heading into next weekend. It's going to be 50 on Friday, 60 on Saturday, 70 on Sunday. So happy Easter. At least we might have a nice Easter for Columbus. As for Norman, we're looking around 70 degrees from now until Tuesday. Very nice and seasonable. We're going to have a storm chance Tuesday night into Wednesday. It's going to be a bit cooler on Wednesday, 60 degrees. Then we're going to be in the upper 60s and windy for the rest of the week. Going to be pretty windy most of this week as it is. So that 70 degrees isn't really going to feel like 70 degrees in sun. It's 70 degrees in sun and a nice Oklahoma wind of, 25 miles an hour. So, you get what you get. Let's talk March Madness. Of course, that begins today, continues today with the Sweet 16. Gonzaga, Creighton, USC, and Georgia are in the west side. I do expect Gonzaga to win out the west. That's just my 2 cents. In the east, Michigan, Florida State, UCLA, Alabama. Watch UCLA, with lots of double-digit seeds this year, but I unfortunately think that Michigan is going to pull out the east side to face Gonzaga. And then we got over in the south, we got Baylor, Villanova, Arkansas, Oral Roberts. As much as I dislike that they beat Ohio State, it looks like they got at least somewhat of a basketball team. So I'm hopeful for them. And then Baylor, Villanova could go either way. Probably Baylor, in my opinion. But that's my 2 cents. Moving on to the Midwest, Loyola versus Oregon State. 2 Cinderellas right there. I'm voting for Loyola just because of Sister Jean, and Loyola could go all the way. Honestly, it would be pretty amazing. They destroyed Illinois, which is wild. So, my money's on Loyola to beat Oregon State. But Oregon State's good too. They're a 12 seed, and they've made it this far. And there's another double-digit seed in there. Houston really. If they saw that was going to be the last 4 teams in the Midwest when they got seeded, they would think they have their work cut out for them. But they don't. Coronavirus video update number 75. We're back to these graphs right here. The daily new cases per capita. That's a big fat 0 in the state of Kansas. I guess they had no new cases yesterday, so that's good news. I didn't realize that when I put the graph in, but we can't complain about that. Oklahoma moving down as well as many of the other states throughout the United States. Daily new deaths also generally moving down throughout the United States, which is good. Look, a big fat 0 in 4 states. We have Wyoming, once again Kansas, Missouri, and what's that? Maine would be the name of that state, and several states pretty low as well. So this is generally very, very good news. We still don't have the hospitalization data, so that is what it is. Daily vaccinations doing pretty well across the board. Mississippi, come on. Pennsylvania moving up the ranks there. California also doing pretty well. Wisconsin also pretty steadily moving up in terms of its vaccination. Ohio also doing the same. 49 states still with the B117 variant from the UK. Over 8,000 of those particular cases. None in Oklahoma, which I think is fake news, but whatever. The South African variant now in 29 states for 266 cases. You get a map of the states infected with that there. And the Brazilian variant is now in 19 states with 79 total cases. So there's also that. Total infections are back on their way down. Remember, we had it go up last week. You see it heading back down this week, and the projection is for that to thankfully continue moving downward. People vaccinated per 100, of course, our dear friend New Mexico continues to lead the way, at over 35% of their people being vaccinated at least one dose, and several other states doing really well. The South, Georgia, Alabama, come on, guys. Like, we can do better than that. Fully vaccinated Utah, the Mormons, what are they doing? That wasn't a Mormon joke. I like making Mormon jokes, but I'm just saying because it's Utah. Anyways, over 20% fully vaccinated in both New Mexico and South Dakota. So that is pretty big. Vaccination totals, we're nearing 90 million with that first dose. Over 25% of the population. If you're over age 65, 70% of your age group in the United States has received that dose, and we're nearing that 50% mark for those over age 65. That's big news. 77% of the total vaccines distributed have been administered, so that is also big news. Moving right along to how we're doing throughout the world. And of course here in the United States. Worldwide, we're still up around 500,000, which is what happened last week in terms of current cases. India is now up to 6th place after just joining the top 10 last week. So that's pretty big. Mexico increased in their cases, but dropped off the top 10 due to Ukraine joining the list. France, now the second country above 4 million cases, right behind the United States. And if you don't know anything about world geography, France is much smaller than the United States and has, we're more than twice the size of France, more than twice the population of France, and France has more than half the number of cases than the United States. So they definitely are becoming increasingly concerned. Worldwide recovery is now over 100 million, so that's big news. Worldwide deaths still, that's just so many people. Yeah, wow. Biden held his first press conference this week. He told everybody how everybody thinks that he's a nice guy. He also said that his new goal is 200 million vaccines in his first 100 days. Not 100 million, as of course we've already beat the 100 million, as I just previously mentioned. U.S. current cases nearing 7 million, continuing to move down. Went down, I think, 220. That's the number I was looking for, 220,000 last week. Florida drops out of the top 3, continues to lose cases rapidly. Virginia slowly growing as well, so that contributed to Florida going down, and Virginia joins the top 3. But overall, most of the United States doing pretty well at this point in time. In U.S. Catholic news, we're going to talk about one thing only. We got maps, we got graphs, we got statistics, all my favorite stuff right here, right now. Let's talk about how tithing has affected Catholic churches, dioceses, and parishes during COVID-19. This study put on by the Pillar, or reported upon by the Pillar, includes Seattle, San Diego, San Antonio, Sioux Falls, New Orleans, Chicago, Columbus, yeah, many of you are from there, Miami, New York, and Springfield, Massachusetts, among plenty of others. You see some of them are grouped together in different groups, but those are the general areas. If we take a look at the comparison, we can see when the pandemic hit pretty clearly. I mean, they made the mark where March 15th is. Yeah, so of course, in 2019, we see that red line go up heading into Easter and sustaining a little bit after Easter. No surprise. That's when people actually come to Mass. Of course, we see an increase towards the end of the year because tax write-offs and Christmas. So that makes sense. But yeah, that Easter 2020 dropped nearly $4,000 per week So that was a very big impact to parishes. It looks like we're generally starting to get back up there, and you see it's following the general trend, but still around $1,000 per week below what it was supposed to be. I guess I put the same picture in here twice, which means I probably accidentally missed a picture. But alas, we're going to move right along. Changing collections, Sioux Falls actually went up in terms of their collections since the previous year. Several dioceses went down a little bit, New Orleans, Columbus, and Portland, among others, and then several others getting hit harder, especially those big cities, New York, San Antonio, Miami, Chicago, and the Southern California areas. The total change in collections by parish. So if we look at this, so they chose 10 parishes per region. So Columbus is a region, Sioux Falls and Fargo together is a region, New Orleans is its own region. That's just how they grouped them. Not that it really matters, as it generally looks the same, except for North and South Dakota, which seem to be doing much better than everybody else. So good for them, I guess. I mean, it's the Dakotas, and they got hit pretty darn hard by the pandemic, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about now. But generally, it looks like a substantial, noticeable decrease in collections between 2019 and 2020. If we move on to the change in offertory versus COVID deaths, we do have a statistically significant difference. And it's not anything too wild, but what we do see is that there is at least somewhat of a correlation between more deaths and giving. Well, you know, it's a little gray. The highest deaths, one of those parishes in North Dakota, I believe, nearly 4,500 deaths per million, but they increased their offertory by 16%. So, I mean, this is, it's questionable exactly how this is impacted, but there is a statistically significant relationship between the two. Now, unemployment versus the income from the parish is certainly statistically significant. You can really see this here. We do see if unemployment is high, generally tithing is decreased. Unemployment low, tithing increased or stayed the same. So that's not necessarily unexpected, but and it's a very wide brush that we're painting with here. As you can see, from any given point, we go out 5% plus or minus from the line of best fit there. So, lots of things. But if we take the data and separate it into two parts, the top part being places where collections were down 20% or more, and the bottom blue line being where collections were up, and take that and graph unemployment with it, we do clearly see that there's a difference between places where collections were down and places where collections were up. It's a very clear difference. If collections were down, unemployment was higher. That's not surprising, but that is what it is. There's also a very noticeable relationship between the percent Hispanics in the zip code area of the parish versus the change in offertory. And this isn't anything bad about Hispanics. It's about how the pandemic has affected Hispanics, really more than anything else. And so we see if there's lots of Hispanics in the area, generally offertory decreased more significantly than if there weren't that many Hispanics. And that goes to show you the importance of the Hispanic community and the influence that they have in honestly the least politically correct way to say it, but they're not necessarily on the highest end of the economic spectrum in the United States. And so when something like a pandemic happens, it hits them the hardest. And so the parishes that they go to are also in turn going to get affected by the coronavirus. So that's big news. The pillar, the people who put all of this stuff together so that I didn't have to, also interviewed Father O'Brien from St. Francis Xavier in Stillwater, Oklahoma. He said that those who could afford actually gave more during the pandemic. He also noted that parishes that had more alternatives for being involved due to the coronavirus, or having outdoor sacraments like drive-through confession, outdoor mass, etc., did much better, and a number of people just gave their stimulus checks straight to the church because they didn't really need the money. So that tells you a little bit about the U.S. government. But that's a conversation for another time. International Catholic news, 2 things, and we're done for this week. Let's first talk about the land near the Down Under. That, of course, is New Zealand. Miscarriage bill was passed, their legislature, that is going to give paid leave to couples who have a miscarriage, and that awaits approval to become law. India already did this, actually, and they give 6 weeks of paid leave for the couple rather than the 3 days here in this New Zealand bill. But I believe that's better than we have in the United States. So, In Switzerland, we also have a Germany-like issue. So a bishop was installed on March 19th in Switzerland. At the Mass, he gave 3 high-ranking Protestant leaders communion. The cardinal who installed him didn't notice that he gave the Protestant leaders communion, but he has spoken out about the German efforts to allow Protestants into communion. So, unfortunate is probably the best way to put it. This newly ordained bishop is also supposedly well-versed in canon law and claimed that Canon 844 supports him. But a canon lawyer at the Catholic University of America said, well, that applicability of Canon 844 is like if somebody's in danger of dying, not if they're at the installation mass for you. For those who don't know, for bishops that are installed, generally speaking, officials of the community, including other religious leaders, especially Protestants, Muslims, Jews, everybody from the area, political officials, are generally invited to come to the installation mass. That's just how it works, to show that this is a community thing and not just, the church going about whatever it is, and, whether or not they know that they're helping the church prove its point. That's another story for another time. And we've spent a lot of time on this today. This has been The Rundown. I have been Chris Dixon, and this is InfoWeather Catholic Media. See you guys next time.